Exclusive reporting from the New York Times is today saying that a preliminary investigation by the US military has shown that the US is responsible for a deadly strike on an Iranian elementary school.
Hello, I'm Linton Besser. Welcome to Media Watch. And tonight we're going to examine that awful piece of news, the strike on a girls' school in southern Iran on the first day of hostilities, with the New York Times reporting last Wednesday.
US at fault in strike on school in Iran, preliminary inquiry says.
That preliminary finding, a devastating military error, was met by the leader of the free world like this.
Commander-in-Chief, you take responsibility for that.
That is what?
For the strike on the school in Iran.
I don't know about it.
The press coverage of the school bombing offers a window into the wider challenge of reporting this war. Editors and journalists, almost all of them outside Iran, anxious to sift fact from propaganda. So let's go back to the beginning. The strike on the evening of Saturday the 28th of February, Australian East Coast time, was first reported, as best we can ascertain, by Iran's state-run Islamic Republic News Agency, or IRNA, before wire services put out flash alerts after 10 p.m. The ABC's news bulletin that night carrying this.
Iranian state media are reporting that dozens of people have been killed in an American strike in the country's south when a girls' school was hit.
Within hours, IRNA was posting images purportedly of the bombed-out school, grieving mothers and blood-stained backpacks. Al Jazeera's take on the story about an hour later pointed the finger at Israel, incorrectly as it would turn out. Australian correspondents were treating the question of attribution with more caution. The ABC's Matt Doran among the first to explain to breakfast audiences just after 6 a.m. Sunday morning that
an Iranian state media is also reporting things such as that school which has been hit in Minab in the south of Iran, saying dozens of people have been killed there. Again, no verification on those details.
Nine's Today also careful to make clear where it was getting its information.
The Iranian Health Ministry says more than 80 people have been killed at a primary school.
That night, SBS's chief international correspondent hit send on the story, running vision of a grieving father.
Authorities say more than 100 children are among the dead.
And by then, Seven was confident the story was real, but careful about whose targeting error was to blame.
No words for this. A targeting tragedy with a primary school hit.
24 hours later, on the Monday night, Sky News commentator Chris Kenny, wagging his finger at the ABC and others for reporting the regime's information, articulated the problem facing all newsrooms.
According to Iranian authorities, how could you quote a terrorist regime in the middle of a war?
But the next morning, courtesy of that very same terrorist regime, there came another major development in the story. The circulation of this, a drone image of more than 100 graves being dug by excavators, which ran across social media, prompting a fiery online debate about whether the picture was real or recycled. Meanwhile, The Guardian was trying to sort fact from fiction, and 3 days after the first reports of this tragic missile strike, published its first forensic analysis, identifying children's bodies in the rubble and arriving at the conclusion
the school's location, the nearby smoke and the timing of the bombing all give credence to the assertion that the school was hit by the US and Israel.
Which of these militaries pulled the trigger was still unclear, and the Trump administration was pushing back.
Did the United States airstrike a girls' elementary school and kill 175 people?
Not that we know of, Sean.
Now, 4 days after the attack, dedicated fact-checkers had authenticated this terrible picture as real, giving comfort to those who chose to splash with the image, like the Irish Examiner and back home, the Sydney Morning Herald. The Australian also printing the photograph that day inside the paper. And as for who did actually fire the missile, the New York Times and CNN were concluding it was not Israel, but the United States. Online investigators Bellingcat identifying the missile as a US Tomahawk, the failure of American targeting finally confirmed 11 days after the strike, despite Donald Trump having done his best to point the other way.
You just suggested that Iran somehow got its hands on a tomahawk and bombed its own elementary school on the first day of the war. Why are you the only person saying this?
Because I just don't know enough about it.
And why would he? He's only Commander-in-Chief. We asked Australia's newsrooms about how they tackled this difficult and critical story. The ABC, SBS and Channel 7 all emphasising the importance in conflict of transparently reporting who is claiming what. Their responses on our website. We also asked an outsider for his view, the former Channel 9 Network News Director Max Utrich, who was highly critical.
Scores of schoolgirls killed should immediately have been an urgent primary focus, but wasn't. It's only as evidence mounts that some have finally broken cover and rediscovered their courage. When journalism flinches, the world ducks.
The former ABC foreign correspondent Peter Cave reminded us, however, of the challenges of verifying such a story.
When I was reporting from the Middle East, we didn't have AI-generated images or stories, but we did have misinformation. I can understand why journalists were cautious in their reporting of the girls' school.
In the case of these terrible and avoidable deaths, with few correspondents on the ground and a deluge of information online, not all of it trustworthy, truth could only but take the long way around. 11 days in total to assign responsibility for this deadly strike and hold America accountable. Tragically, that is an eternity in our accelerated age, much of the world already scrolling ahead to the next inevitable horror. Now to the other vector of this war, the UAE.
That was metres away from us. Look at this. That is the Fairmont Hotel in Dubai. Oh my God. Oh my God.
From beside the pool and from on the balcony, much of the story of the UAE's involvement in the war has been transmitted over social media, including by Australian influencer Louise Starkey.
Scared. I'm actually so scared. I'm in JDC right now and I can see... Oh, no. Not meant to be happening here. I've been hearing loud explosions sort of like in the background all day. We're supposed to be in the safest place, like...
Since that first attack 2.5 weeks ago, Iran has launched an ongoing wave of drones targeting US bases like Al Dhafra, but also the Dubai International Airport and residential quarters. But within a few days of that first bombardment, the story on social media mysteriously changed.
From what I've seen over the last couple of days, I have such faith in our leadership and our authorities. We live in one of the greatest cities in the world, and guys, I can assure you that it is safe here.
So safe, in fact, that this 18-year-old German woman, also trying to make it big online, insisted she wasn't scared in Dubai because she knows who protects her. Which soon became, yes, a social media trend. The lyrics of that song, Où est ton papa, or Where is your daddy, not at all creepy, especially considering Sheikh Mohammed, the ruler of Dubai, has twice abducted his own daughters as they attempted escape, and which might help explain at least a little of the context missing from those social media videos.
The UAE has sent out a public warning. Anyone sharing information from unknown sources could be in violation of the Emirates' strict social media laws and risks imprisonment or a hefty fine.
In recent years, the Emiratis have lured in as many as 50,000 influencers with a so-called golden visa for creators, as well as state-of-the-art recording studios, a buzzing creative scene, and of course, tax-free income, which, together with fake private jets in which to film your next Insta-reel, has created a Botox Babylon, the Bitcoin rich, the Insta-famous, all together in a shiny, never-ending pool party. Turns out, though, that when buying into the Dubai dream, it's best to read the T's and C's.
Anyone who publishes information or visuals damaging or tainting the reputation, prestige or dignity of the United Arab Emirates will be imprisoned for 5 years.
Some read that fine print too late.
Dubai charges British man arrested for filming missiles.
The 60-year-old British man, just one of 21 people who have been charged with cybercrime offences since the start of the war, according to advocacy group detained in Dubai. These influencers and their hangers-on, heady with petrodollars and the ultimate consumer lifestyle, are now realising the benevolent overlords they're rushing to praise online are anything but. Many of them, I'm sure, ditching the replica in search of a real plain out. And now to the state of darkness descending over the state of justice in the state of Victoria.
New analysis has revealed Victoria's judges and magistrates hand down the most suppression orders in the country.
Earlier this month, Melbourne's journos were howling about the scourge of suppression orders, gagging them from reporting the identity of high-profile defendants and handed out like confetti by the state's courts.
Your right to know.
Shocking state of suppression.
Dismay at court's hostility to media.
The latest headline case last December, a prominent Melbourne figure having his name protected by the courts.
Man from high-profile Victorian family found guilty of rape after 10-day trial.
The man, who still cannot be named for legal reasons, was convicted by a county court jury.
6 days later, and only because Channel 7 hired a lawyer to appeal to the judge, the man's identity was finally revealed.
Unmasked.
Silvani rape shock.
The man from a high-profile Victorian family who was convicted of rape can finally be named as Tom Silvani, the youngest son of Carlton champion Stephen Silvani.
Cases like this, journalists say, where the wealthy and influential are rewarded with anonymity, have become all too common across the country. In Victoria, the much-vaunted Melbourne Press Club decided something must be done.
A groundbreaking independent research report commissioned by the Melbourne Press Club and conducted by Monash University has found that public interest journalism in Victoria has reached crisis point.
That study included interviews with 12 experienced reporters who described the persistent hostility of court staff and the bench itself.
Some of the remarks made by judges towards journalists are really quite disgusting. That reporting is always inaccurate and terrible.
And, adding muscle to the Press Club's campaign, what it claimed were damning statistics.
In 2023, almost half of the suppression orders made in Australia were made in Victoria.
Almost half? So how many are we talking?
Out of more than 1,100 suppression orders in 2023, Victoria was responsible for 521, more than these states and territories combined.
Where did these astonishing figures come from? They were sourced from this prominent table featured twice in the Press Club's report, which claimed Victoria's suppression orders in 2023 were almost 4 times that of New South Wales and 260 times that of Western Australia. And where did the Press Club's researchers get these stats? From another separate report published in 2024, which made plain they were a tally counted up by a single media lawyer on the basis of notifications she'd received by email, and which carried a warning her figures may not be accurate, a crucial caveat noted in the 2024 report but omitted entirely by the Melbourne Press Club, which nonetheless relied on the figures to hammer an allegation that Victoria's gag orders significantly outnumbered other states. So do the real numbers support that argument? The Press Club report claimed New South Wales had issued 133 orders in 2023. In fact, we've confirmed it was more than twice that number in the Supreme Court of New South Wales alone, while the true number of suppression orders in WA was more than 170 times what the Press Club report had claimed. Oh dear. The errors cited in a love letter from the Chief Justice of Victoria, who bemoaned the report's
misleading claims, selective citations, and suppression order data, which has been debunked as incomplete and misleading.
Jason Bosland, a legal academic who advocates for more transparent courts, claimed he'd warned the authors and the Press Club their numbers were wrong, but was ignored.
I provided feedback, both verbally and by email. The only conclusion that I can draw is that the data was used to deliberately mislead the public.
Monash University gave us this non-answer to our questions, assuring us it takes academic integrity seriously. Consider us so assured. While the Melbourne Press Club said the powerful interviews contained in its report make clear there's a serious problem in Victoria's courts. And the statistics?
As our researchers made clear, these are raw figures, and we acknowledge that they do not capture every order made.
The fact is, no one presently knows for certain whether Victoria does issue more suppression orders than other states. So, while it's certainly true that whatever their high-minded principles, courts too often default to secrecy, it is impossible to say whether this attitude is worse in Victoria than anywhere else. The Press Club's campaign is a noble one, but by relying on these grossly imperfect numbers, it only risks hardening the regressive instincts of the court. And that's all from us tonight. Be sure to check us out on ABC iView as well as YouTube and Facebook. You can find full statements on our website. And don't forget to send us your tips. See you next week.